What is up, my friends? It's a brand new week and you are very welcome along to today's Anfield Agenda transfer news roundup. Of course, we're going to be focusing on the main tasks of the next couple of weeks, which is to bring in Alexander Isak and to figure out what's going on with Marc Guehi and Ibrahim Konate. So I'm going to take you through all the news around those subjects and a little bit more over the next few minutes. The good news, of course, is we will be back tonight at 8:45 with the late night agenda. Hope you can join us for that. Until then, let's get cracking with the news. So, going to start off with Costas, and Fabrizio Romano has said Costas Tsimikas' exit is expected to accelerate as Liverpool could also be open to a potential loan move. The left back is prepared to leave as Milos Kerkez and Andy Robertson will be the left backs moving forward for Arne Slot. I have to say I'm a little bit surprised that if we are willing to move Costas on, that there isn't willing buyers out there. Even at 15, 20 million, you would expect somebody as experienced at a top level and an international as Costas would attract some attention. So, gotta say, I'm a little bit surprised on the potential loan. Do let me know your thoughts on it. Right, the PA News Agency has said that a man arrested on suspicion of racially abusing Bournemouth forward Antoine Semenyo during the opening game of the Premier League season has been banned from every football stadium in the UK, and proper order as well. Again, our thoughts are with Antoine Semenyo, who should never have to suffer anything like that at Anfield or any stadium, nor should any other footballer. So, again, good to hear that at least this gentleman has been, well, I struggle to use the word gentleman, to be honest. This individual has been banned from football stadiums. Right, Ben Jacobs has said Liverpool would have had no issue with selling Ben Doak to Everton, who were also keen on the winger. Now, Ben Doak's move to Bournemouth pretty much has been done. We've here seen the images. You've probably seen them yourselves already of him holding up that Bournemouth shirt. So that move is in the can and will be announced soon. But Liverpool would have sold to Everton if they had wanted him. So interesting one there. Let me know what you think on that. It's often debated whether we should sell to the local rivals or not, but I've never had an issue with it if it suits both clubs. Right, let's move on. Ian Doyle has said that Liverpool remain in talks with Crystal Palace over a deal for Marc Guehi, with the player keen on the move. Steve Parish is determined Guehi won't leave on the cheap, but he also has to be aware, I'm sure, that he won't leave for free because, you don't want to lose him in a year's time for nothing. So surely taking a few million quid less this window would make more sense than losing them for nothing. Now, I know Steve Parish wants to be a tough negotiator, wants the best deal for his club. Completely understand that, and full respect to Steve Parish. But, common sense has to come to the head here. And if we want them and, they're going to have to sell them, surely a deal can be done. Right, Romano has said Ben Doak has passed his medical at Bournemouth following a £25 million transfer agreement formalised on Friday between the clubs. He's set to sign a long-term contract. But here's the really interesting part in this one, folks. Liverpool have included a buyback clause to retain future control over the player should he, develop into a star. So at least common sense again prevails there with Liverpool. Lots of us wanted Ben Doak to be given an opportunity, but at least now Liverpool have a buyback in there, similar to the situation with Jarell Quansah. Let's move on to speak about Newcastle. And Craig Houlden has said Newcastle are still focused on a deal for Yohan Wissa in the next 24 hours. Newcastle are focused on a deal and the next 24 hours will be key. Said Craig Hope. Word over the weekend of Bournemouth sticking to £50 million valuation, and reports today say that is now £60 million. Newcastle won't deal at those numbers. The PIF simply wouldn't allow it, but are hopeful of reaching an agreement. So, look, why is Ben Doak important in this? Well, Ben Doak will help ease the attacking burden on Bournemouth, who are of course losing Ouattara to Brentford. Brentford will then sell Yohan Wissa to Newcastle, and they will hope that would help with Liverpool. So Liverpool have done their part in this. Now let's see what happens and if these dominoes fall into place. So let's talk about Ruben Amorim for a little minute, because of course Manchester United were beaten and a stat jumped up today that I thought I had to talk about. Ruben Amorim has lost 15 of his 28 Premier League matches in charge of Manchester United, winning 7, drawing 6 and losing 15. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. 15! Losing 15! That is shocking. Right. Liverpool and Crystal Palace have held discussions about the possibility of a £35 million deal for Marc Guehi, writes Sammy Mockbell of the BBC. There is still no agreement, but those talks should accelerate in the next few days, and the success of that deal hinges on whether Steve Parish sees Liverpool's deal and their valuation of the player enough to let go of their captain. Again, though, I'm going to reiterate, this is kind of a silly hill to die on if you're Steve Parish, because you either lose him for free at the end of the season or you get 35 million quid now. Either way, in a year's time, Palace is still going to have to go and find another defender. Wouldn't it be better to try and do that now with 30 or 35 million pound in the bank? Surely. It may be that Parish decides the deal isn't enough and the fee isn't enough, and it may be more valuable for him to stay until the end of the season and the 12 months and his contract runs up. Again, I don't see sense to that personally. There's still a lot to get done in the deal, but there are legs in it, and if I were a betting man, said Sammy Mockbell, then he'd put money that the deal goes through before the window closes. What that doesn't do, though, is give us any indication of what's happening with Ibrahim Konate and his future, as that is, well, still very firmly up in the air, and we have 2 weeks to the day till the transfer window closes. Mike Keegan of the Daily Mail has said that Liverpool are targeting a move for Brentford defender Nathan Collins. I love this as a Liverpool fan, as an Irishman, but he does have 4 years left on his contract at Brentford. He's just been made their captain, and they have an additional 2-year trigger that they can make it 6 years left on his deal. So very, very difficult one to get done, in my opinion. Dermot Gallagher, speaking about Senesi's handball against Liverpool, this kind of boils my blood, ladies and gentlemen, for the very reason I'm going to say in a second. He said if he goes to the screen, he would have been sent off. It was a mistake. Unfortunately, it didn't affect the outcome of the game. Yeah, it didn't affect the outcome of the game because we went up and scored 2 goals at the other end, Dermot. But it very well could have. And that's the whole point here with the PGMOL. Week 1 in the Premier League in what was a very, very basic, obvious decision. And yet again, who's sitting in the VAR hub? Michael Oliver, supposed to be the best in the country, give dodgy penalties against Manchester United for the Rashford challenge. United fans will know what I'm talking about. Screwed us with the Odegaard handball and then blatantly robbed us again with what is a basic decision. And we're all supposed to just shrug our shoulders and go, well, sure, no harm done. No, very much harm done. The fact we went on to win the game is irrelevant. The PGMOL need to stop this. Oliver is useless. I'm not wrong. He's absolutely useless. Anybody with any refereeing experience would have known that was a handball. Anybody who's ever kicked a football knew that was a handball, except Michael Oliver. Make that make sense. Right, Gianni Infantino, of course, wants more money for him and his friends at FIFA, so they're considering the Club World Cup every 2 years. Sure, what could go wrong? It's not like players are already exhausted. Sure, let's shoehorn in another tournament every 2 years. Hopefully that doesn't come to fruition because nobody wants it. The Champions League's the pinnacle of world football, and all this is really is a battle between Gianni Infantino and UEFA over who gets to have the big, sexy football competition. Let's be honest, the Champions League is pretty good as it is. We don't need to be bringing in teams from South America, Oceania, and everywhere else in the world when most likely, let's be honest, it'll end up the European team winning it because that's where the best football is. No disrespect to anybody else around the world. Maybe we could have a competition between the winners of the Champions League and the winners of the Copa Libertadores. That would be far more appealing to me anyway as a football fan. Let me know what you guys think. No disrespect intended to the other teams, but nobody needs to see Bayern Munich winning 10-0 in this tournament. It doesn't benefit football whatsoever. So that is it for me for now, ladies and gents. We'll see you back here tonight, 8:45. Until then, have a wonderful Monday. Much love. Bye-bye.